Hello, and today's video, as you've probably guessed from the title, is all about my gear room. And those of you who are eagle-eyed have noticed that over the last few months I've actually moved to a new office or a new place to do my videos, and this is it here. And that's also freed up another room which used to be my office before I moved into this office. And on the video, I can't remember which video it was, but one of the videos that I did a few weeks ago, I got asked for a tour of the gear room. Now, it was from a chap, let me have a look at my notes here, it was Christopher Walker who asked for a tour of the new gear room. But before I go and show you the new gear room, I thought I'd just give you a wee bit of background on how I managed to get a new office and a new gear room. And it all came about because I've got a very understanding wife. In fact, the whole idea wasn't mine, it was my wife's idea. She suggested that I move into this bigger office. This actually used to be the kids' playroom, and then I used the space that was my old office for the gear, but she did have an ulterior motive because prior to me having this gear room, my gear room was a house, and it was everywhere. There was like little block cubes with walking poles across the top and gear bags thrown in, and the utility room, you couldn't move in the utility room. I had all my waterproof jackets and fleeces all hanging up over the off the coat rails, and then all the cupboards in there had bits and bobs of camping gear, and as for my camera equipment, it was strewn across the house. So I think this has benefited everyone. Me moving to a new office and having a new gear room. So how did I do it? Well, I had to clear out my old office, and if you remember some of the old videos, you might have seen my old office. I'll be cut to a bit of old footage just now, and it's not a big room, and it was just a wee box room, no windows or what have you. So I had to clear that out and get this room sorted before moving into the gear room. And I had a friend, I've got a friend who's a joiner. I paid him to come and do it because my DIY skills are absolutely rotten, absolutely terrible, no good at all. So we got Barry in to make the gear room, and it maybe took them 2 or 3 days to do it. And I wanted some nice cubes and what have you to put shoes in, and you'll see it when I go in. And so they spent a few days ripping out there were some old bookshelves in there and what have you, so they ripped them out and then put up the new fittings and what have you. And then after that, although that took a few days, it must have taken me up to about a week to gather all the gear from around the house and put it in there. But now that it's up and running, it's absolutely fantastic. I love it. So without further ado, let's cut to the gear room. So the gear room, here we are, and this actually backs onto my office, which is great. And the first thing that you'll notice is all the ice axes. I wanted to hang these on the wall, and we put a board up with these protrusions to rest the ice axe on. This one's really just for decorative purposes. This is my old walking axe. Put that up there. I don't use that one as much. I've replaced it with this Gravel Monroe, which has got a slight bend, and it's a slightly nicer to use. I use that quite a lot. I used it a lot this year actually. But it's nice having the axes up there out of the way. Before, the axes were on top on top of a tall cupboard, and along with my crampons, which was probably the worst idea I've ever had, because if they were hanging off slightly when you came to open the cupboard, there were a few times I nearly had an ice axe or crampons through my head, as did my wife, because you'd open up the door and it would catch the top and it'd fall down. So this is much safer, and it looks nicer as well. And they're kind of out of the way, and I've got the shorter axes, more technical axes here. That's my old Alpwing axe. I actually got that from Jerry when we first started. And my Quarks that they've been gathering dust this year, unfortunately. Not really done much technical stuff due to the weather and not being able to get out quite so much, but it's nice having them there. And then lower down, I've got a rope just hanging on one of these coat pegs here, and this is where I keep my walking poles hanging here. I always disassemble my walking poles when I come back for a walk. So if you leave them, there's moisture in them, they can corrode and what have you. So that's That's that. Now I'm going to have to move the camera to bring you further in. I managed to keep my map of Scotland, which I wasn't sure whether I was going to be able to do that. And behind me you can see all the cubes, and yeah, I'll go through that now. That's the mainstay of the gear room. So let's have a look at the cubes, will we? So the cube system, and I don't know if you can see this. I'll pan down in a minute, but this was my original desktop here, and I wanted to keep that as the kind of the middle shelf. It's not quite the middle shelf, but a base shelf, which was a bit deeper, and then put these shelves in above it, or these cubes in above it, which were a bit more recessed back from the size. And this allows me to put bigger stuff down below, which I'll go through in just a minute. But yeah, the cubes are fine. I wanted them to store my boots, so you can see my boots here. I've got all my various boots along the bottom here, which I sometimes keep clean and sometimes don't, and that's great. I can just pop them in there. It gives them a wee bit of space to air and dry and what have you. And at the top here, in this picnic box are all my maps. I've got a few pairs of trousers above it. There's some rock climbing gear, rock shoes and harnesses, and old helmet up there. And up here is, when I go camping, that's all my wild camping gear. I've got various bits and bobs, midge nets, filters, stoves and all that. The other part of that's here. You can see the stove and my jet boil. Down here I've got some take wash, nick wax for reproofing, which I need to do soon. Got my helmet and various bits and bobs. What's that? It's my Sawyer water filter for when I go camping. I've got a waterproof case there for when I go kayaking. Some binoculars in there, which I have yet to use. And there's a hip flask at the back, very important piece of kit. And here these are just fairly empty. What have I got in there? Some head torches, some sunglasses and what have you. And in here some bags for my camping, various bits and bobs, some bike stuff in there as well. I've got some camera accessories in this box, some GoPro accessories, although I keep most of my camera gear in my office stroke studio. It's really just an office. So if you're interested in that, I could do a tour of the office the next time, show the studio setup and the lights and what have you. Let me know. Just some extras in here. What else have we got? In this box here, what have we got? Oh, this is my climbing gear, my harnesses. Jerry keeps most of the rack at his place. I don't have all the quick draws and screws and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, there's a couple of harnesses in there. Another pair of rock shoes. What's that? Oh, Via Ferrata. Do that. So that's quite good and handy to have. And then this box here, that's full of hats and gloves and what have you. So depending on what mood and where I'm going, I must have about 12, 13, maybe more pairs of gloves in there to choose from, and a fair few hats and buffs and all this sort. So they get used all year round, essentially. So that's quite good. I don't know if you can see this. What I'll do is I'll pan the camera down so we can go into what's below the old desk here. So let's have a look. Right, I need to get down my knees here. My old knees. So down here, I've got some of my rucksacks, my big wild camping rucksack here. There's a few bits and bobs under there. I've got all my, as I said before, I take apart my walking poles, so the bits that I can't hang, I pop down there. Also have them apart because it allows them to dry. Then in here, this is my sleeping bag. I've got my mat, X-bed mat in there behind here, and this is a whole load of sort of spare sleeping bags that the kids have used and what have you, and various other bits and bobs. I've got a bivvy bag here, and I've got my tents, my scarp tents in this wee section here, as you can see. And then just over there is more rucksacks and what have you. So it's really it's handy to have. I've not actually used this yet. This is just a wee vise, cheap vise off Amazon, and the point of getting that is really just for sharpening and, you know, making the ice axes and crampons a bit sharper. Should I ever get to use them in a decent setting, if the ice comes next year, I'll put them on the wee clamp there and use that to hold the ice axe while I get the file out and sharpen them up. So that's this part. Right, it's only one more bit to go now, and that's over here, so I need to move the camera again. Now I've had to switch to the GoPro because this room's so small, I couldn't really fit enough in with the other camera in terms of the wide view. Hopefully you'll get more of a picture of what's going on with the GoPro here in terms of this final part of the gear room. I've also not been able to fit the lighting in here, which I usually use, so this might look a bit rubbish. However, so the final part of the gear room is, yeah, I got a rail of coat hooks put up at the top as high up as I could get, and also a rail put a bit lower down, just so I could get as much of my waterproofs and my trousers and mid layers and what have you in here. And I think the most important thing, and I'm quite lucky in this respect, is that it's a small room and we've got a radiator in here, and it's great. It's almost like a drying room you get at in the bothies and what have you. In fact, I've got a soaking wet waterproof that I had on this morning because it's chucking it down outside, and everything dries really nice and quickly with the radiator being there, and it's right below all the gear. And you know, there's nothing too special about this. I put my over trousers on the top along here because they're longer, obviously, and then just hook up my fleeces and my mid layers on the top. There's a wee duvet jacket there. Not much to say about that, really. I do have my snowshoes are there, and I've just got some of my sort of more generalised walking shoes that I use for walking the dogs down below there. So that's essentially it. This is my gear room. So hopefully you've enjoyed that. There's not much to say really about the gear room, but I must admit, I find it's super useful having everything in the one space now, and it's not as much of a chore when I come back from a long day in the hill. I can just come in, bring my rucksack in here from the car and my boots, get everything sorted out. I don't have to kind of go upstairs into the attic, through the utility room and what have you. Everything's contained, and I'm really lucky that A, I've got the space to do this. It's not, we just live in a small semi-detached house, and B, that I've got a very understanding wife who actually suggested that we make use of this space in such a way, and she's happy because the utility room now is it's been redone. I've put a new floor in it, and there's room to move around in it now, and there's not gear kicking around in the hallways and all sorts. You know what it's like. So yeah, hopefully that's been useful. If there's, as I said before, these kind of Sunday vlogs, they won't be every Sunday because it's sometimes don't have the time to do it. But I'll hopefully try and answer some of your questions in them, or I might do something slightly different. I might do shorter walks and what have you. But if there's any questions that you want me to answer, just leave some comments in the section below, and hopefully you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you on Wednesday somewhere out and about in the great Scottish mountains. Thanks for watching.